The massive spacecraft of the Axiom Collective darkened the skies over major cities worldwide, their sleek metallic hulls reflecting sunlight in dazzling patterns. 7 distinct vessel designs represented the 7 species that formed the most powerful alliance in known space. For 3 days they simply hovered, silent and watchful, before finally establishing communication. In the hastily prepared United Earth Defense Headquarters beneath Seoul, alarms blared as the main view screen flickered to life. Captain Jiwoo. Park straightened her uniform, her stern expression masking the fear she felt as the alien face appeared on screen. High Commander Taiho had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on a face covered in iridescent scales that shifted color with his breathing. "People of Earth," Taiho's voice came through the translators with an unsettling musical quality. "The Axiom Collective brings greetings from the stars. Your world has been monitored since your first radio signals escaped your atmosphere. We have determined that you are ready for first contact." Jiwoo watched carefully, noting the slight movements of what appeared to be secondary appendages just out of the camera's view. Something felt off about this whole situation. "Our 7 species have brought peace and prosperity to half the galaxy," Taiho continued. "We offer Earth a place within our collective. Your resources are abundant but inefficiently utilized. We can help you extract and refine them in exchange for our protection and technological assistance." After the transmission ended, the room erupted in debate. Most of the world's leaders seemed relieved, even excited by the prospect of advanced alien technology. But Jiwoo couldn't shake her suspicions. "They're hiding something," she told Defense Minister Junho. "Why would beings capable of interstellar travel need our resources? They could mine asteroids or uninhabited planets without the complications of dealing with us." Minister Junho nodded slowly. "I agree, but we need proof before we can act against them. The public is already celebrating in the streets." 3 days later, the collective landed a smaller vessel at the designated meeting point in neutral Switzerland. Taiho emerged with 6 others, representatives of each collective species. One had tentacles that constantly shifted and reshaped. Another appeared to be made of crystalline structures that hummed with energy. The third walked on 4 backward-jointed legs with eyes that rotated independently. The fourth seemed almost human, except for its blue skin and height of nearly 3 meters. The fifth floated above the ground, its body semi-transparent and glowing from within. The last one was encased in some kind of mechanical exoskeleton that hissed and steamed with each movement. While Earth's representatives were busy with official welcomes, Jiwoo and her small team of specialists worked in the shadows. Technical Officer Do-hyun had managed to place nearly invisible quantum transmitters on the hull of the alien shuttle during the landing confusion. "Got it," Do-hyun whispered through their secure comms. "Their internal communications are encrypted, but I found a pattern. Give me 2 days and I'll crack it." Jiwoo nodded, watching as Taiho smiled with too many teeth at the Earth's delegation. "Make it 1 day." For the next week, the aliens put on an impressive show. They demonstrated miraculous medical technology that healed a paralyzed child in seconds. They unveiled power generation that could run a small city from a device the size of a coffee cup. They spoke of eliminating poverty and extending human lifespans. With each impressive display, public opinion swayed further in their favor. But in their secret base, Jiwoo's team made a breakthrough. Do-hyun's face was pale as he pulled up the translated alien communications on the screen. "These aren't diplomats," he said, voice shaking. "They're an assessment team. Look at these messages. Back to their fleet." Jiwoo read the decoded transmission with growing horror. "Human civilization presents no meaningful resistance capabilities. Their military technology is primitive, and their societal cohesion fragile. Recommend rapid resource extraction protocol. Estimated completion time, 15 planetary cycles. Expected resistance minimal. Population control measures will be standard." Further decryptions revealed the truth behind the Axiom Collective's expansion. They moved through the galaxy like locusts, identifying resource-rich worlds with inhabitants, too weak to fight back. They would extract what they needed, leaving the planets barren and the native species either extinct or enslaved. "These are not allies," Jiwoo said, looking at the evidence. "They're predators." She immediately put her contingency plans into motion. While appearing to cooperate with the aliens, her team secretly gathered data on collective technology from each demonstration. Engineers worked around the clock, reverse engineering what they could from the small devices they managed to borrow during exhibitions. Meanwhile, in orbit, High Commander Taiho connected to the collective's central command. His scales shifted to a deep blue of satisfaction as he reported. "The humans are even more primitive than we anticipated. Their technology is centuries behind ours. They believe our deception completely. They're actually grateful for our arrival." The Collective Supreme, a being composed of living metal and quantum energy, responded with visible pleasure. "Excellent. Begin preparation for the harvesting fleet. Standard approach, offer them protection against an imaginary threat, then position our weapons platforms in orbit. By the time they realize the truth, resistance will be impossible." "What about their military?" asked another commander. Taiho's scales rippled with amusement. "Laughably primitive. Their most advanced fighters couldn't even catch our shuttlecraft. Their weapons are chemical projectiles and crude explosives. Nothing that can penetrate even our basic shielding." What Taiho didn't know was that as he spoke, Jiwoo was already inside their shuttle, using adaptive camouflage technology developed in secret by United Earth Defense. She slipped past their sensors and attached quantum recorders to their main computer core. Every bit of data was being transmitted back to Earth's hidden labs where scientists worked frantically to understand alien technology. As Taiho returned to his quarters that night, confident in his species' superiority, Jiwoo was meeting with representatives from every major nation, showing them the truth. The aliens had made one critical mistake. They had underestimated humanity's greatest strength, not their technology, but their determination when threatened. "They think we're easy prey," Jiwoo told the assembled leaders. "Let them keep thinking that. Meanwhile, we prepare. They know power, but they have no idea what humanity is capable of when pushed to the edge." Exactly 3 months after first contact, the morning sky darkened as hundreds of new Axiom Collective ships emerged from hyperspace. Unlike the diplomatic vessels before them, these were unmistakably warships, massive, angular constructs with weapon systems clearly visible along their hulls. The 7-species fleet arranged itself in a perfect geometric pattern above Earth, a display of both precision and power. Global communication systems were suddenly overridden. Every screen on the planet switched to show High Commander Taiho, his scales now a deep crimson that pulsed with intensity. "People of Earth," his voice boomed without the previous diplomatic warmth. "The assessment phase of our interaction is complete. The Axiom Collective now presents our terms." In the underground command center, Captain Jiwoo and her team watched with grim faces but no surprise. They had been preparing for this moment. "The terms are simple," Taiho continued. "Earth will surrender 70% of its mineral resources, 40% of its water, and 30% of its biological specimens. You will provide 5 million human laborers annually to assist in the extraction process. In exchange, we will allow your civilization to continue existing." Defense Minister Junho's face had gone pale. "They're not even pretending anymore." Taiho's image zoomed out to show a holographic display behind him. "To demonstrate our capabilities and encourage your cooperation, we will now provide a small demonstration." The camera panned to show an uninhabited island in the Pacific. A beam of intense blue light shot down from one of the smaller ships. When it touched the island, the entire landmass simply disintegrated, leaving nothing but steam rising from the ocean. "You have 48 hours to formally surrender and begin resource preparation," Taiho concluded. "Any resistance will be met with planetary-scale consequences." Panic erupted worldwide. Stock markets crashed within minutes. Religious leaders called for prayer. Military forces went to their highest alert status, though most generals knew their weapons would be useless against such advanced technology. At the emergency United Nations session, representatives from every nation gathered with fear evident on their faces. Many were already drafting surrender terms, hoping to negotiate better conditions for their own countries. As the Secretary General prepared to open discussions on surrender protocols, the doors at the back of the chamber burst open. Captain Jiwoo strode in, flanked by Technical Officer Do-hyun and Chief Science Advisor Minji. "Before you surrender our planet," Jiwoo announced, her voice steady and clear, "you should see what we've discovered." She nodded to Do-hyun, who activated a holographic display in the center of the chamber. It showed detailed scans of the collective's ships with specific sections highlighted. "Their technology is impressive," Jiwoo acknowledged, "but it isn't magical. We've spent 3 months studying everything about them. Their ships have vulnerabilities. Their weapons have limitations." Minji stepped forward, her usual lab coat replaced by a formal suit. "More importantly, we've found something interesting in their historical records." The hologram shifted to show a star map with dozens of worlds marked in red. "These are planets the collective has harvested before. Notice anything?" The Secretary General leaned forward. "They're all isolated systems, single planets with no allies." "Exactly," Jiwoo said. "In 3,000 years of expansion, the collective has never faced united resistance. They target worlds one by one, always following the same pattern: diplomatic contact, resource demands, then harvesting." Minji advanced the display. "We've analyzed their weapon signatures. That island wasn't disintegrated, it was transported. They don't destroy resources, they extract them directly. It's efficient, but requires tremendous energy. They can't possibly do that to the entire planet at once." Murmurs spread through the chamber as hope began to replace despair. "But what can we possibly do against such power?" the French representative asked. Jiwoo smiled for the first time. "We fight, not as separate nations, but as one planet." She gestured, and the hologram changed again to show schematics for new weapons systems. "Using what we've learned from their technology, we've developed countermeasures. They expect us to either surrender or launch our primitive weapons in desperation. They don't expect us to understand their technology, and that's their weakness." For the next hour, Jiwoo and her team laid out the defense plan. Using reversed-engineered components from the collective's demonstration devices, Earth scientists had developed shield generators that could deflect the collective's transport beams. They had created new weapons that targeted the specific frequencies used by alien sensors. "We won't win a conventional war," Jiwoo admitted, "but we don't need to. We just need to make the cost too high for them to continue." The chamber fell silent as the world leaders considered their options. The Chinese president stood first. "China stands with humanity." The American president followed. So does the United States. One by one, every nation joined the alliance. As the emergency session concluded, the Secretary General approached Jiwoo. "You realize what you're asking? Millions could die if we're wrong, and billions will be enslaved if we surrender," Jiwoo replied. "This is our only chance." In orbit, High Commander Taiho received the transmission from Earth. His scales flickered. In surprise as the message played, Earth refused to surrender and demanded the collective's immediate withdrawal. "They're rejecting our terms." The Axiom Supreme's voice was incredulous. "Run a sensor check. Their primitive weapons can't possibly hurt us." "Scans confirm they have no technology capable of penetrating our shields," Taiho reported, though something in his tone betrayed uncertainty. "However, we're detecting unusual energy signatures around their major cities. They appear to be attempting to create shield technology." The Supreme's form pulsed with something between amusement and annoyance. "Impossible. They couldn't have deciphered our technology so quickly." Taiho switched his communication feed to address Earth again. His scales now glowed with a threatening violet hue. "Your defiance is both foolish and futile," he announced. "You have 48 hours before we begin systematic resource extraction. Your population centers will be the first targets. This is your final warning." As the transmission ended, Taiho turned to his commanders. "Prepare the harvesting beams. When the deadline expires, target their most populous cities first. The humans will surrender when they see their great structures turn to dust." Back on Earth, Jiwoo looked up at the threatening fleet through a powerful telescope. "They have no idea what's coming," she whispered. "They know power, but they've never faced humanity pushed to the edge." The clock began counting down to humanity's greatest test. The final minutes of the ultimatum ticked away on screens worldwide. In command centers buried beneath major cities, military personnel and scientists worked frantically, making last-minute adjustments to the planetary defense network. Dr. Hyun wiped sweat from his forehead as he calibrated the main shield generator beneath Seoul. "Power level stable at 87%, he reported, his voice hoarse from days without proper sleep. "The frequency modulators are responding correctly to simulated extraction beams." Across the room, his assistant Minji monitored a wall of displays showing similar installations around the globe. New York, Beijing, London, Cairo, Sydney, all reporting ready status. The shield network is as prepared as it can be. At exactly 800 hours, the collective's massive harvesting ships moved into position. Their hulls split open like mechanical flowers, revealing complex arrays of energy projectors aimed at Earth's surface. High Commander Taiho stood on the bridge of the flagship, his scales shimmering with anticipation. "Begin primary extraction sequence," he ordered. "Target their largest population centers first." Brilliant blue-white beams lanced down from the fleet, striking toward major cities on every continent. Those watching from a distance saw the sky itself seem to tear open as energy cascaded toward the planet's surface. But instead of cities vanishing into dust, something unexpected happened. As each beam struck the atmosphere, it encountered an invisible barrier. The shield network, hastily constructed from reverse-engineered alien technology, flared to life. Shimmering domes of translucent energy became visible where the extraction beams hit, absorbing and diffusing the alien weapons. In the collective flagship, alarms blared. Taiho's four eyes widened in disbelief as the sensor officer reported the impossible. "High Commander, the humans have deployed some kind of shield technology. Our extraction beams are being deflected." "Impossible!" Taiho slammed his scaled fist against his command console. "They're primitives. They couldn't possibly understand." "How technology, let alone replicate it in 3 months, the evidence suggests otherwise," his second-in-command said quietly. "The energy signature matches our own shield harmonics, but with modifications we've never seen before." Taiho hissed in fury. "Increase extraction beam power, overwhelm their defenses." The harvester ships adjusted, pouring more energy into their weapons. The beams intensified, pushing harder against Earth's shields. In Dr. Hyun's command center, warning lights flashed as the strain increased. "Shield integrity at 73% and dropping," Minji called out. "We're losing power faster than projected." Dr. Hyun rushed between workstations, redirecting power and adjusting frequencies. "The modulators are overheating. We need to cycle the shield harmonics faster." Above one North American city, a section of the shield flickered and failed. The extraction beam punched through, carving a kilometer-wide hole in an uninhabited forest before the backup generators kicked in and restored protection. "They've breached the primary shield," a technician shouted. Dr. Hyun nodded grimly. "As expected. Now for Phase 2. He activated a secure communication channel. "Captain Jiwoo, they've committed their harvesters. All ships have deployed extraction arrays. You are cleared for Operation Trojan." While the collective focused their attention and sensors on the planetary assault, something small and fast streaked away from Earth's night side. The stealth shuttle, covered in light-absorbing materials and equipped with sensor-jamming technology, carried Captain Jiwoo and a hand-picked team of 12 operatives. "Approaching target," the pilot reported, his hands steady despite the enormity of their mission. "Their sensors are still focused on the planet. No indication they've detected us." Through the viewport, Jiwoo could see the enormous collective flagship. Almost 15 kilometers long, it dwarfed their shuttle like a whale beside a minnow, but size wasn't everything. "Remember," she told her team as they prepared their equipment, "we only need to reach their central data core. Dr. Hyun's program will do the rest." The shuttle silently approached an emergency maintenance airlock on the flagship's underside, a vulnerability they'd identified from studying the smaller diplomatic vessels. Using tools built specifically for alien technology, they bypassed the outer security and slipped inside. The interior of the collective ship was both beautiful and alien. Corridors curved in mathematically perfect arcs. Lighting came from bioluminescent panels that pulsed in rhythm with the ship's functions. Most striking was the scale, everything built for beings larger than humans. "Movement ahead," whispered Do-hyun, checking his scanner. "Two maintenance drones." The team pressed against the walls as floating mechanical spheres drifted past, their sensor arrays focused on internal ship systems rather than potential intruders. Following memorized schematics, they made their way toward the central core, occasionally hiding from alien crew members. The 7 different species of the collective each moved in distinctive ways, some floating, others skittering on multiple legs, making the task of avoiding detection even more challenging. Meanwhile, on Earth, the shield network was beginning to fail under the sustained assault. In key cities, buildings shimmered and began to dissolve as extraction beams broke through momentary gaps in the protection. "We can't maintain the shields much longer," Dr. Hyun reported to the United Earth. "Defense Command, shield integrity below 40% globally. Hold them as long as possible," the defense minister replied. "Jiwoo's team needs time." Inside the flagship, the human team reached a massive chamber housing the data core, a column of swirling energy contained within crystalline structures that rose 30 meters high. Jiwoo nodded to Do-hyun, who carefully approached a control interface. "I need 3 minutes," he whispered, attaching a specialized device to the alien console. "Their security is complex." "You have 2, Jiwoo replied, as alarm signals suddenly blared throughout the ship. "They've detected us." Outside the chamber, they heard the heavy footsteps of security drones approaching. Jiwoo and half her team took defensive positions, while Do-hyun worked frantically, uploading Dr. Hyun's program into the collective's systems. 60 seconds, Do-hyun called. The chamber doors slid open, and 3 battle drones entered, floating spheres twice human height, bristling with weapons. Jiwoo fired her modified pulse rifle, striking the lead drone with energy calibrated to disrupt its shields. The machine faltered but kept advancing. 30 seconds. More drones poured in. The human team fought desperately, using everything they'd learned about collective technology to hold them back. "Done," Do-hyun finally shouted, disconnecting his device as the data core's color shifted from blue to purple. Throughout the collective fleet, ship systems suddenly behaved erratically. Extraction beams wavered and shut down. Navigation systems reported impossible readings. Communication between vessels dissolved into static. On the flagship bridge, Taiho watched in horror as his displays went dark. "What's happening?" "Unknown." "System intrusion," an officer reported. "It appears to be impossible. The humans have somehow inserted a virus into our network." Back on Earth, Dr. Hyun smiled as his monitors showed the collective fleet falling into disarray. "Captain Jiwoo, did it. The adaptive virus is spreading through their systems. The shields might have bought them time, but it was human ingenuity that would win this war." Alarms continued to blare throughout the collective flagship as Captain Jiwoo and her team barricaded themselves in a secondary control room. The virus they had uploaded was doing its work, disrupting the fleet's coordination, but they knew it wouldn't last forever. "How much time do we have?" Jiwoo asked, keeping her weapon trained on the sealed door. Do-hyun's fingers flew across the alien console. He had partially rewired. "Maybe 30 minutes before their systems purge our virus. They're adaptive, already developing countermeasures." "Then we move to Phase 2, Jiwoo said. She nodded to communications specialist Yoonji, who connected a data crystal to the ship's communication array. "Broadcasting now," Yoonji confirmed. "The signal is piggybacking on their own communication frequencies. They can't block it without cutting off their internal communications." Throughout the collective fleet, something unprecedented happened. On every screen, in every ship, across every species' visual interface, data began to flow. Internal communications from the High Council, spanning centuries. The files had been discovered buried deep in the diplomatic vessel's databases, and now they were being broadcast to every member of the collective simultaneously. The files revealed a shocking truth. There was no resource scarcity in the galaxy. The Council had been manufacturing shortages, destroying perfectly habitable worlds, to maintain their control over the 7 species. The necessary harvesting of worlds was nothing but a fabrication to keep the population dependent on Council leadership. On the crystal-formed ships of the Lumini, Captain Shinra watched in disbelief as centuries of deception unfolded before her faceted eyes. Her crystalline form vibrated with anger as she saw her own homeworld had been deliberately kept resource-poor to ensure loyalty. In the organic vessels of the myriad, Commander Gaon's tentacles twisted in outrage. The fluid-filled command center bubbled with the collective anger of his species as they learned they had been participating in needless genocide for generations. And aboard the cybernetic hive ships of the Nexus, Prime Coordinator Jinsu processed the data with cold logic, reaching the inescapable conclusion that the Council had been manipulating his kind for millennia. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity was preparing its own surprise. In hidden facilities beneath the oceans and inside hollowed-out mountains, hangar doors slid open. Dr. Hyun stood in the main launch control room beneath the Pacific, watching as pilots in specialized neural interface suits boarded the sleek, black vessels that represented humanity's greatest technological achievement. "Nova Squadron, prepare for launch," he announced over the communication system. "Remember your training. These ships are unlike anything humanity has piloted before. The neural interfaces will respond to your thoughts, but don't overthink. Trust your instincts." The 50 Nova fighters were each about the size of a small passenger jet, but their capabilities far exceeded anything Earth had ever built. Using reverse-engineered collective technology, combined with human ingenuity, they were faster, more maneuverable, and more responsive than any ship in the alien fleet. Most importantly, they were unpredictable, designed to be piloted by humans rather than AI systems. Nova Squadron leader Suho adjusted his neural interface helmet and gave a thumbs up to the launch technicians. "Let's show these aliens what humans can do," he said to his squadron. "Remember, their ships rely on predictive algorithms. Be unpredictable." As the collective fleet struggled to regain control of their systems, 50 black streaks shot from Earth's atmosphere, moving so quickly that several alien vessels couldn't track them properly. "Unknown vessels approaching," reported a sensor officer on Taiho's flagship. "They're using some kind of modified jump technology, but their energy signatures are impossible. They appear to be using our own propulsion technology, but modified. High." Commander Taiho's scales had faded to a pale, sickly yellow as he fought to maintain control of both his fleet and the spreading information revolt. "Destroy those ships, all functional vessels, target the human fighters." The collective's remaining operational ships turned their weapons toward the approaching Nova fighters. Energy beams lashed out across space, but the human vessels moved with unexpected agility, changing direction in ways that defied the collective's targeting computers. Inside his fighter, Suho felt the ship respond to his thoughts. He didn't need to input commands or manually adjust controls. The neural interface translated his combat instincts directly into action. He thought about a spinning dive beneath an enemy cruiser, and his Nova fighter executed the maneuver perfectly. "For they can't track us," he called to his squadron. "Their systems expect logical, efficient movements, fly like humans, be creative, be unpredictable." The Nova fighters danced through the collective formation, targeting weapon systems and engines. They moved like no ships the collective had ever encountered, sometimes making seemingly inefficient turns or loops that confused the alien targeting systems completely. Aboard the Lumini command ship, Captain Shinra had seen enough. "This ends now," she announced to her crew. Her crystal body glowing with determination, she opened a direct channel to High Commander Taiho. "The Lumini withdraw from this conflict," she stated flatly. "We will not participate in more council." "Deception!" Before Taiho could respond, Commander Gion of the Myriad joined the channel. "The Myriad also stand down. We have been lied to for generations. No more." Prime Coordinator Jinsu's mechanical voice completed the rebellion. "The Nexus, calculate a 99.8% probability that the Council has been acting against the collective good. We withdraw our forces." 3 of the 7 species pulled their ships back, forming a protective barrier between Earth and the remaining collective forces. Nearly half the alien fleet now stood with humanity. In the secondary control room, Jiwoo watched the scanner displays with growing hope. "It's working," she told her team. "The alliance is fracturing." On the main view screen, They could see the Nova fighters continuing to harass the loyal collective vessels, targeting engines and weapons while avoiding critical life support systems. Humanity wasn't fighting to destroy, they were fighting to disable. High Commander Taiho watched in disbelief as his grand fleet fell into chaos. 3 species in open rebellion, his ships being outmaneuvered by primitive humans in stolen technology, and worst of all, the Council's secrets exposed to... "Oh, this isn't over," he snarled, ordering his remaining ships to regroup. "Prepare for a full assault. If we can't harvest this world, we will sterilize it." But as the loyal ships attempted to form a new attack formation, they found themselves caught between the rebellious collective vessels and the persistently unpredictable Nova fighters. For the first time in the collective's long history of conquest, they were facing not just resistance, but outright defeat. On Earth, people watched their screens in amazement as the tide of battle visibly turned. Dr. Hyun allowed himself a brief smile before returning to work. "They knew power," he murmured, "but they never understood humanity." The journey to Nexus Prime, the collective's capital world, took 3 weeks at maximum speed. Captain Jiwoo stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, Earth's first true interstellar vessel built with modified collective technology. Through the viewscreen she watched as their allied fleet emerged from hyperspace, a mix of Earth's Nova fighters and ships from the 3 rebel species. "Quite a sight," said Captain Shinra of the Lumini, her crystalline form shimmering with bands of light that indicated her nervous excitement. The translation device converted her musical language perfectly. No outsider has ever seen Nexus Prime and lived to speak of it. The capital planet glowed like a jewel, a perfect sphere surrounded by thousands of orbital structures and defensive platforms. Despite losing nearly half their forces, the remaining collective species had consolidated their defenses around their seat of power. "Incoming transmission," reported Communications Officer Yunji. "It's the High Council itself." The view screen shifted to show 7 figures, each representing one of the collective species. High Commander Taiho sat among them, his scales a deep, angry red. "This sacrilege cannot stand," announced the central figure, a massive entity composed of swirling plasma contained within an ornate mechanical shell. "How you humans have corrupted our collective, turned allies against each other. For this your world will be reduced to ash." Jiwoo stepped forward, her expression calm despite the threat. "Your threats are empty, Council Speaker. Your harvester fleet is crippled, and 3 of your member species stand with us. We didn't corrupt your collective, we simply revealed the truth you've hidden for centuries." The Council Speaker's plasma form flared with anger. "You know nothing. Of galactic politics, the harvesting was necessary to maintain order." "Was it necessary to lie to your own people?" asked Commander Gion of the Myriad, his tentacles rippling with indignation. "To tell us resources were scarce when they were abundant? To destroy worlds that could have been shared?" The council chamber fell silent. Finally, Taiho spoke, his voice heavy. "The humans and the rebels now control too many of our ships. We cannot win this confrontation without destroying the very collective we claim to protect." "Then perhaps it's time for a new approach," Jiwoo suggested. "One based on cooperation rather than conquest." For the next 12 hours, representatives from Earth and the rebel species negotiated with the Council. Tempers flared, ancient grievances were aired, and several times the talks nearly collapsed. But eventually, exhaustion and the reality of their situation forced the Council to consider Jiwoo's proposal. In a chamber built for beings twice human size, Jiwoo presented the terms. "The collective will end all planetary harvesting. Resources will be shared equally among all species. Technology will no longer be restricted based on species or status. And Earth will join as an equal partner, not a subject world." The Council Speaker's mechanical limbs twitched with reluctance. "And what of those who have overseen the harvesting? What retribution do you seek?" Here, Jiwoo surprised everyone, including some of her own team. "No retribution. Amnesty for past actions in exchange for full technological reparations and cooperation. In establishing the new order," murmurs spread through the chamber. Even some of humanity's allies seemed shocked by the offer. "You would forgive so easily?" asked Taiho, his scales shifting to a confused blue-green pattern. Jiwoo met his four eyes directly. Revenge would satisfy. Today but poison tomorrow. We're offering a chance to build something new, something better than either of us had alone. As the formal surrender and new alliance treaty was signed, Nova fighters and Lumini crystal ships performed a joint aerial display over Nexus Prime, once forbidden to outsiders, now the capital of a new interstellar cooperative. 1 year later, the Galactic Concordate celebrated its first anniversary. Representatives from all 7 original collective species plus humanity gathered on a newly constructed space station orbiting Earth. The massive ring structure represented the new balance of power, not a hierarchy, but a circle of equals. Dr. Hyun, now Earth's Minister of Interstellar Science, guided a group of young students from different species through the station's main observation deck. Before the Concordate, different species were restricted to different technologies, he explained as the diverse group of youngsters gazed at Earth below. The Lumini were forbidden from studying biological sciences. The Myriad couldn't access quantum physics. Humans were to be harvested for resources. Now we share knowledge freely. In the diplomatic wing, Captain Jiwoo, now Ambassador Jiwoo, prepared for the day's council session. A familiar face appeared at her office door, scales now a peaceful blue tone. Ambassador, Taiho greeted her with the new concordate salute. Right. Hand open, palm forward to symbolize transparency. Advisor Taiho, she returned the gesture. Walk with me to the council chamber. As they moved through the station's curved corridors, observation windows showed Nova fighters, training alongside ships from all 7 other species, executing complex maneuvers that combined each civilization's unique approach to space combat. I still don't fully understand, Taiho said as they watched. You had us defeated. Our secrets exposed, our fleet divided. You could have demanded our extinction or subjugation. Jiwoo smiled. That's what the old collective would have done. We wanted to build something different. They paused at the final window before the council chamber. Below them, Earth rotated slowly, clouds swirling across blue oceans. Around it, ships of all 8 species moved in harmony, their designs already, beginning to incorporate elements from each civilization. In the old archives, Taiho said quietly, there was a warning about Earth. It said your planet had been observed for centuries but was quarantined because your species was deemed unpredictably dangerous. I never understood what that meant, until I saw your people fight. And now? Jiwoo asked. Taiho's scales rippled with a new pattern Jiwoo had learned meant respectful amusement. Now I understand the warning wasn't complete. You're dangerous, yes, but not in the way we feared. He turned to face her fully. We knew power, the power of technology, of numbers, of age, but nothing prepared us for humanity's fury, or for their capacity to forgive when victory was theirs. The council chamber doors opened, revealing representatives from 8 civilizations, ready to continue building their new shared future. As Jiwoo took her seat at the circular table, she reflected that humanity's greatest strength had never been in weapons or technology, but in their ability to imagine something better than what came before, the end